One night, a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two steps of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him, and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life, there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there's only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you the most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, My precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trials and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. Yeah. And I knew, like, reading that, I was like, okay, when I was going through all these hard times and I felt like I was alone, he was there the entire time. And he was carrying me through all of those obstacles. So that really hit. And she was like, I just felt like it went with you perfectly. Like what you're telling me, like, you need to read this. And she goes, and whenever you feel down or whenever you feel like, you don't understand why he's, putting you through this, like, go back, read it, remind yourself. He's there and he's carrying you through everything.
Welcome back to another episode of High Value Discussions. In this episode, I am blessed to be able to reunite with an old friend. My guest is a college graduate, a devoted follower of Christ, and someone who is passionate about helping others navigate one of the most common struggles people face today. In a world where pressure, uncertainty, comparison constantly surrounds individuals, many people silently wrestle with internal battles that others never see. And my guest has made it part of her mission to speak openly about these challenges and to encourage others to face them with faith, honesty, and courage. In this episode, we're going to be talking about faith, mental struggles, identity, and how people can develop the tools to navigate these mental battles while building a stronger foundation in their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Alaiza Toscano. But for you, I'm just kind of curious on that specific moment on what led you to therapy. Because it was very, daring in the beginning.
Yeah. I feel like I'm a person that's like, I can open up really easily. And being at that age, the only person that I really talked to was like my mom. Like she knew every detail. I would tell her everything and she's so understanding. But sometimes it would get kind of hard because she's a mom, she's older. Sometimes she doesn't understand like, our generation and kind of like what we go through and it's a big difference from like how she grew up and stuff. So like at that age, I wish I was able like to talk to somebody that kind of just would like sit back and, not be biased and understand like what I was going through and how I was feeling. Not saying that she didn't do a good job. She did an amazing job, but I think at that age, I probably did tell you like, hey, yeah, like I want to get into therapy. Like I should, I should talk to somebody. I think that's why it was so easy, like to open up to you and tell you kind of like, where I was at in life and how I was feeling and stuff. So yeah, I wish I had talked to somebody then.
Therapists are there for a reason.
Yeah.
They've been educated. They have so much things to be able to pass on to us, whether it be homework, knowledge, wisdom, etc. But what was that moment for you where you kind of decided to yourself, or maybe somebody almost bestowed it upon you, or like, hey, Alaiza, I think this is a good option for you? Or did you make that decision yourself?
I made the decision myself to get into therapy. Back then at that age, I think that just what I was kind of going through at the time, like I told you, I was in a relationship at a really young age and I was experiencing things that I shouldn't have been experiencing at that time. And, telling my mom like, hey, this is what I'm going through, or, this happened to me. And I don't think she understood it all the way. So like, I think that in that moment, I'm like, okay, I need to speak to somebody that is, has seen this, has experienced this, and could give me better guidance, like what to do next or how to go about my feelings. Because in that moment, like, experiencing things as an adult now, I wish at that age, and scratch that. I actually feel like as an adult now, I'm like, oh my gosh, the things I'm going through are so difficult. And then I look back at like the things I dealt with as, 12, 13 years old. I'm like, I don't even know how I overcame that. Like that was so hard. Like if I'm struggling now to get over things, I can't even imagine what I was going through then. So I just wish that at that age I had opened up to somebody and said, hey, this is what I'm going through. What's my next step? How can I stop myself from feeling this way? And I feel like now that I do have that like resource and I can talk to my therapist and open up to her and she can give me like tips and tricks on like how to go about my anxiety or, just to get myself grounded again. She definitely helps. So I just wish that at a young age I had that experience because it wasn't easy.
And this was all recent, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because for some odd reason, I was telling you off air that it felt like when we were all in Cancun, I feel like you were pursuing therapy during that time. And then me, I feel like I said that to myself, like, wow, like she's so young, but she's pursuing therapy. That's maturity
Right.
again, because a lot of people, they see it as a weakness. They see it as like, oh, I'm in therapy, but I'm not going to talk and say out loud that I'm in
Exactly.
therapy. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
even you're 23 right now, you're still so young,
Mhm.
but I feel like that's so important to be kind of like that advocate for young women as well, that it's okay to seek more guidance.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with, hey, I need help here.
Mhm.
And that's what's so hard about this generation too, is everybody's so scared to ask for help.
Yeah. Well, I just hit a month of therapy. I think like 2 days ago, and yeah, she opened my eyes up a lot actually, because she would tell me like, oh, this is why some people do the things that they do, and then she would like ask me like, oh, like have you done this? And I kind of sit back and I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, like why do you think that you do this? And it just made me realize like, okay, that's that hit, because then I kind of like think back. I'm like, okay, in this moment in time, I could have done that differently, or I could have seen it this way. And I think that being in therapy really makes you think. Because sitting in front of my mom, I'm telling her, like, hey, this is what I'm going through. And, this person did this to me, or, I was told this and I'm feeling this way. Of course, my mom's going to be like, oh, well, I love you and you're amazing. And, all the things that you want to
Shout out to you,
hear.
Letty. I miss you.
Yeah. Love you, mom. Um, all the things that you want to hear, sometimes not, she kind of puts you in my place and like, okay, you should have done that, or you could have done this differently. But being in front of somebody that doesn't really know me, and then I'm telling them what I'm kind of going through, and then they kind of sit back and be like, okay, but you should see it this way. Or I think the other day I had told my therapist something and she was just like, but you don't know that. And I was like, oh no, but I do. And she goes, no, but you don't know that. And that made me kind of sit back and be like, oh, but I don't know that, And that's why it's so great to be in therapy, because it just makes you think. It really does. And it like opens your mind to like experiences that you've had in the past, and like how you could have handled that differently or done things differently. And then now I can walk away from therapy now and like I know what I could do differently now. And that's like it's a great feeling, honestly,
Yeah.
because I'm just bettering myself. And I think that she told me too, she goes, this is a start. You coming to therapy is a start of your healing. You did the first step. Like, be proud of yourself. And I think a lot of people are scared to like get into therapy because they're like, oh, well, you're not strong, or you're weak if you go to therapy. I don't see it that way at all, because I don't think I'm weak. I think I'm actually really strong. But sometimes you need to sit down with somebody that doesn't know you, hear your issues or what you're going through, and then kind of just give you guidance like, hey, see it this way, try this out, use this technique, and see how that helps you.
Yeah.
And it definitely does.
So what are some of the most important tools that your therapist has like equipped you with, that you've recognized? You're like, man, I'm able to walk with this and recognize something like an old trigger, and I'd be able to combat it with this tool. Because a lot of the things that my mentor passed down to me, very, very valuable, to the point where it's like the responding, the reacting, everything, it's a little bit more calculated. But have
Yeah.
you recognized the tools that you were equipped with?
She's honestly given me a lot, and one of the ones that kind of like stuck with me is I have severe anxiety. So I told her, I was like, yeah, I have like these anxiety attacks. Like, I don't really know how to control them. I get really nauseous, I get really shaky, I can't breathe. And like I would do anything to like not feel like that. And she was like, well, have you tried any techniques to like stop you? And I said, yeah, I tried this tapping method. It's like the butterfly method. And you can just tap your chest like this. And it's honestly helped. Like anytime I'm in a predicament where I'm just like having anxiety, I don't even know why I'm having anxiety. Like I'm around family or friends or I'm out doing something fun and it just hits me. That's what I do. I try that. And she's giving me many techniques of like grounding techniques. Like I think I don't know if it was called like the ABCD or I think it was like numbers. And she's like, okay, find two things that you see, and then two things that you smell, and two things that you can touch. Um, that way you can feel grounded again. You know, sometimes you can get lost in like your thoughts and when you're having anxiety and like you just need to get back down
Yeah.
to the ground and like calm yourself down. And I tried it and honestly it really does work. It really does.
I'm kind of curious because I remember you saying that too while we were on vacation,
Mm,
where you said you had anxiety. And I
yeah.
wish I kind of asked you it during that time, but I kind of want to ask you now. What do you think that all stems from?
Again, back to like that relationship. I feel like I was dealing with so much at a young age that like now I'm traumatized. I think even being away from my family, like my parents for some reason, like every time I'm away from them, I realize that I always have anxiety attacks. And I think just definitely the trauma, like everything that I dealt with in that relationship, it was really bad. You know, I was with this person up until like off and on up until I was like 18 years old.
From 12?
Yeah. Yeah. And it was hard. Like I was in high school and I would go through things with this person. I would still see this person every single day. And that was traumatizing. Seeing the person that would like hurt you every single day, that was traumatizing. So I noticed then that like my anxiety got really, really bad. And then ever since then, I feel like it just never went away. Like I'm just like, I don't know if it's like scared, nerves, I don't know what it is, but it just hits. And I'm like, what why am I getting like this? Like I'm fine. You know, I'm around friends, I'm around my people. Why am I getting anxiety? And I don't know. Sometimes I just wonder like what's triggering it. And I think that's right now I'm in therapy. I'm trying to figure it out slowly. I'm doing a lot better, but yeah, I think the only thing I can think of is definitely just that relationship going through so much. Like my nervous system couldn't catch a break.
And did that experience alone kind of like almost hinder future relationships nearly?
Yeah. I couldn't trust again.
Mm.
It took a long time to trust again. But I think that well, I hope not. I hope that like the future relationship that I do get in, I hope they don't look back and think like, "Oh, well, why do you have anxiety? Like you should feel safe around me." No, cuz I've experienced that actually. I've experienced somebody be like, "You should
Jeez,
feel
these
safe around
guys.
me. Like you shouldn't have anxiety. Why are you having anxiety?" And that's not the case. I wish
Yeah.
it was that. Like yeah, if I feel safe around you, I'm not going to have anxiety. I wish it was that, but it's really not that. And I feel like yeah, you know, that relationship and those anxiety attacks that I get does kind of affect, you know, my future relationship for sure.
Yeah. Again, the maturity level on his end needs to be a par because
Yeah.
him recognizing it, he should see that and try to work with it.
I can't explain how hard it is to be in that moment where you just can't breathe. You're shaky. You feel like you're going to throw up. Like and I'm like, I don't know. I have like a phobia of like throwing up. I hate that. But like immediately when I get like anxiety, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to throw up. I don't want to throw up. Like it just scares me. And I think somebody being in your face being like, why are you getting like this?
Yeah.
Like you're just triggering the anxiety more. If anything, I need you to just be calm with me. Help me breathe. Hey, breathe out of your mouth, breathe out your nose. You know, think about positive things or let's get you water. Let's go for a walk, get some fresh air. Like I think anybody that has anxiety needs somebody like that.
The partner who kind of sees that and has spent enough time with you, it's almost like they'll know what to do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like every single attack, it's different.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're always the same, if they're like heavier, lighter, etc., or they're just kind of like nearly the same always.
I would say like nearly the same. Sometimes it goes way faster. Sometimes I'm like going through it for a while. Um yeah, I again I had spoken to my doctor about it. I'm like, "Hey, you know, I'm having anxiety attacks, you know, what could it possibly be?" And the only, you know, options they gave me is, "Hey, it's either you go to therapy or we get you on medication."
I was worried you were gonna say that.
It's always either or, and I'm like, okay. So I actually, I want to say like over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I had told my primary doctor, I was like, hey, I'm having these anxiety attacks. This is how it is. I explained to her. And she goes, okay. She goes, I'm going to give you a paper. You're going to fill out the paper, and then I'm going to get it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to let you know what, we should do next. And I said, okay. Gave me a paper. I sat in the room. I answered all the questions to give it back to her. And she goes, okay, well, you have situational anxiety. Okay, what does that mean? She goes, well, I don't think you have anxiety all the time. I think that you have anxiety just based on situations. And I said, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like sometimes when I'm in a predicament where I'm like not fully comfortable, like I can see where the anxiety can kind of just like come on. But then I was like, okay, well, what can I do about it? And she was like, well, we can get you in therapy or we can get you on anxiety medication. And I've always told myself I'm never going on anxiety medication because I've heard from other people that it didn't work. And if anything, it makes it worse. And I didn't even want to risk that at all. So I was like, okay, I'll try therapy. And then in that moment 2 years ago, I was like scared. I was like, am I ready for this? For so long I talked about it. Am I ready for therapy? But I told her, I was like, yeah, let's try therapy. At that point, I just wanted anything to help me. And I got it scheduled. And the day of my therapy session, was over the phone, I got called into work. And so I messaged with the therapist and I was like, hey, something came up. I have to go into work. Is there any way we can reschedule? And the first thing that therapist told me was, yes, we'll cancel this session. This is your first strike. You have 2 more. And then we can't speak or something along those lines. I don't remember word for word, but
it's good accountability.
Right. I was like, yes, but I was like, it scared me. Because I'm like, is this how therapy should be? Like, I'm sorry that like life hit and like I can't, you know? So after that, I was like scared. I was like, all right, this is not for me either then. So I just dealt with it. I dealt with it and I tried other little things to like help me when I have anxiety. I had my little tactics, but just recently I went through like a really tough patch and I was like, okay, there's no way I can get through this alone. Like I have to get help. I have to sit with somebody and like talk about this because if I don't, like what am I going to do? Yeah. So I was talking to my friend Liz and so I was like, hey, like I really want to get into therapy. She goes, oh my gosh, you should. I'm doing it. And I was like, really? You're doing therapy? And my best friend does therapy too. So I was like, you know what? Like I've heard great things. Like, it's really good to just talk about what you're going through. Like, just day-to-day life stuff. Like it's good to talk about it. And she goes, yeah, I'm doing it. Here's the information, call them, schedule your appointment. So I scheduled, it was super easy. And I went in for the first time and I was like, okay, I wish I would have done it sooner because it's great. It's honestly really good. Like she makes me feel super comfortable and very understanding. And, I can ask her, I'm like, hey, so, I wanted to do this. Like, what do you think? And she'll tell me the honest truth. Like, no, I think like for your own sanity, don't do that.
I was just about to ask you that if you had people or you knew people who are also involved in therapy, because I think that's also valuable. Because I don't know if you guys all, like your friend group, have the same therapist, but I feel like that's almost very, very interesting and powerful to have separate therapists.
Oh, yeah.
And when you guys come together, you guys are all just kind of like brainstorming the sessions what you guys talked about. It's like this, almost like this big roundabout of like just information, and it's all progression. We want to go and make sure that everywhere we go, there's progress. So like, are you almost very calculated in that area too, where therapy is so valuable? Your friend group is so valuable. Your family is so valuable to the point where everywhere you go is just growth.
Yeah.
And that's the priority now that you're just getting older.
For sure. I think anybody that I surround myself with today, like we're on the same level. Yeah. I like to surround myself with people who are on the same level for sure. So like even when it comes to therapy, like I said, my best friend's in therapy and my friend Liz is in therapy. And we can all just understand each other and we share our experiences with our therapists because we do have all separate different therapists. Yeah. And just the other day I was like, hey, I was asking my friend Liz, I was like, hey, you reading any books? Because I want to start reading more. Now that I'm out of school, I'm like, I want to start reading, And she was like, yeah, I'm reading this book. And I was like, oh, well, my therapist told me I should read this book about like healing. The beginning is kind of a little bit boring because it's talking about like this vet and, um, how he's like healing from, what he experienced being like um, in the military and stuff. And she was like, "Oh, well, that doesn't sound interesting." I'm like, "No, but like, my therapist told me like as the book goes on, like you'll start to see where it resembles with you when you're in that like healing stage." And I was like, I really want to start reading it. She goes, "You know what? I like your therapist. Like, she's sharing like books with you. And every time I leave my therapy sessions, I have a new paper. And every time I leave, it's like, tactics and tips and tricks and like what I could do to feel grounded again or to control my anxiety. Or if I'm in a situation, like, how do I cope with that? How do I handle that? Like, I always go home with something different." And she was like, "I like yours. Like, you need to share everything." And I'm like, "Oh yeah," and I do. I go home and I'm like sharing it with her, like, "Hey, this is what, how it went."
See, I love how valuable that is. Again,
Yeah.
sharing and making sure everybody gets
Mhm.
some sort of progress.
Yeah,
Where it's like, if you weren't fed during your session, let me assist you here.
for
You know what
sure.
I mean? So I just feel like that's so valuable in your circle.
Mhm.
And it's also very important too, where the circle is also providing a correction.
Yeah.
Like, I love and I still stand by this, where every single man that's nearly in my life is at a higher frequency than me.
Mhm.
And that forces me to show up. That forces me to show up to like that caliber of what a godly man is supposed to be. And you need that. And
Yeah.
being around men that constantly correct me and check me is very, very important. And as women, you would want that too.
Oh
You
yeah.
guys want to be together, helping each other, assisting one another. But when there's time for like a correction, even though it might be uncomfortable sometimes, it's very valuable. It's like,
No,
I'm
yeah.
doing this out of love. Like, I love you so much, where it's like we shouldn't repeat these patterns. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why people participate in therapy is to make sure these patterns don't get repetitive.
Yeah.
Is that one of the reasons why also, where you're trying to break almost like this generational thing where you hope it doesn't pass down when you have children?
Her telling me like, this is where you could have done things differently. You could have took this approach. And now I know, like listening to her telling me like it makes me realize like, okay, now I know. Like I'm going to walk away from it and eventually I'm going to have kids and have to, guide them in the right path. And now that I'm 23, learning all of this super early on, like even better because then I can guide my kids that way too. When I go through things, I'm like, there's other people going through this. Everyone just allows you to know what they want you to know. Everybody's going through their own things behind closed doors. And I don't judge anybody or I don't get mad when people don't understand like how to handle my anxiety because they probably have never experienced that. They've never been in my shoes and experienced like how it feels to be in that moment, nor have they ever been around somebody that has had anxiety. It just comes with time and like, once you experience it once, as long as you're able to like grasp it and like, okay, this person's feeling this way. um I'm gonna learn from this situation, and the next time I experience something like this where I see somebody going through this, I know how to handle it. So I never get upset about like how people handle that, me freaking out or me like not be able to breathe or getting really nauseous. Like I remember the first time I had an anxiety attack around my best friend, like it probably was hard for her. She didn't know what to do, but she understood. After that, she knew like, okay, Liza gets like this, you know. Next time I know, like, hey, let's walk outside, let's take a step from whatever we're doing to like calm down, breathe. It just takes time for people to like realize that.
At the end of 2025, I saw one of your stories on Instagram, and you were kind of reflecting on like the year, and you posted like a variety of photos.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one segment where you said, I was also broken in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And off air, we were kind of talking about a very, very bad breakup. And that was probably one of the biggest reasons why you did approach therapy, correct?
Yeah. I think as soon as this recent relationship ended, um, my parents were really taken back, like super upset, sad. They cried because they felt not only for me but for that other person because they really cared about him. And first thing I told him was, "How will I get past this one?" Because it took me so many years to get past that last one, and it wasn't like I'll never get better than that. It was like, gosh, I have to heal from all of that again. And look how long it took. It took 4 years, I think, to get over that. So the first thing I told him was like, how will I do it again? And my parents were just like, you got this. Like, if you did it before, you can do it again. So like now all I keep telling myself is like, I did it before, I can do it again. I can get past it. And that comes with time and healing. Like, it might take a long time, but I will eventually trust again. And I'm able to trust because I'm full of love, and I know that there's somebody out there like that, just like me. And I know, like you said, God's timing. I know that one day that person will walk into my life and I'll be like, okay, this is why I went through all those obstacles to get me to this person. I'm going to eventually get the person that I've been praying for.
I think what's different about this Alaiza versus like the young one, you're equipped with more tools.
Yeah.
So when you're saying out loud, if I got through it before, I can do it again, you absolutely will. Because again, you're equipped with more tools.
Yeah.
Back then when you were young, we don't have anything.
No.
We're literally like trying to go with what we have.
Yeah.
But as we grow up, we get equipped with more tools, and it gives us more confidence. Like, man, this sucks. This is very strenuous and it's hard and it stings like hell, but we're equipped with more tools. And as the time goes on too, because this is very, very recent, the next month, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, you'll see progress.
Oh, yeah.
Tremendous progress. And who knows, it could be a 4-month, 5-month thing, even less, because you're equipped and you have people, you have the therapist, accountability, your family,
Oh, yeah.
where everywhere you lean onto, there's progression. Again, equipped.
Yeah.
And something that I learned in 2025, there was this course that I took from my church. The whole format of the course was to identify your stones, meaning the stones in your heart. So I had a lot. I didn't realize I had a lot. And when we say, I can never love again, that's a lie. When we say, I can never trust again, that's a lie. They're stones, and we have to remove them, because we can never approach a friendship, another relationship, going into that. Like, say when you do date again, you never want to like tell the guy like, oh yeah, I'm dating you so and so, but like it's gonna take a lot for me to trust you. You know
right. My mom tells me too. She was like, Alaiza, she was like, never tell somebody what you go through, because immediately they're gonna be like, well, why do I have to deal with that? Like, I'm a good person. What does that have to do with me? Or not only that, but I feel like you never want to tell somebody what you went through, because that can be like like showing them like, oh yeah, I was weak. No, you don't see it that way.
No. I'm very old school. Even though like I'm not that old, but I am a firm believer of like putting your head down and working. I'm also a very big firm believer in expressing yourself in every single emotion.
Right.
And I don't think that's a problem. I think it's just a diversified male. So for the person that is sitting across from you, and then you're verbalizing yourself, he's verbalizing, expressing himself, etc., just go. I don't think there's nothing wrong with like expressing things from the past.
I've always done that.
Yeah.
I've always done that. And she's like, don't do that. But I'm like, no, like, I just want them to know, like, hey, I dealt with this. I learned from that. I'm not going to allow myself to get in that predicament again. Sometimes things happen. That's life. Yeah. But again, like you said, like, I'm equipped now. I have a like family behind me that is just so supportive. I don't know what I would have done without them, honestly, because I think they made things 10 times better for me. They like, loved me and reminded me. And then like all my friends, like, I just have such great people in my life that like help me through these things that like, gosh, I'm truly blessed, honestly.
So I wanted to dive more into that breakup. When it first happened and when you found out how it all happened, how did you process it?
At first, it's like when the adrenaline's kind of going out, you're just mad, but you're like, like I'm okay, I'm good. And then it like hits you. I think in the moment that I was like alone, it like hit me and I was like, wow, like out of all people, why you? Never expected it, for sure. Never expected it. But sometimes the best response is no response. And I think when I didn't get the why, because I asked why. I just want to know why. Will it benefit me? Who knows? Will I walk away from it and feel better? Probably not. But people say like ignorance is bliss. And I didn't get the why, but I was able to walk away and be like, okay, I didn't get the why, but I'll be okay. Like the less I know, the better. And yeah, just not giving it a response. It came to a point where I was like, all right, I'm done responding to it. I'm done giving it my energy. It's not worth it anymore. And yeah, definitely anger. And it still comes in waves. Like I learned that too. Again, going to therapy, like I learned from people around me, like they tell me like, hey, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to feel those emotions, feel emotions. Do not hold it in. And to this day, I still do. I let it out. Whenever I feel it, I'll take time to myself, walk away from my family, my loved ones. I don't want to hurt them any more than they've already have, because obviously seeing somebody that you love hurting is not the best feeling. So just taking time for yourself and stepping away and like letting it out is so like kind of cleansing in a way. Like you
Yeah.
kind of like release all that anger that you have built up. Um, but yeah, like it it definitely has been better to just not give a response.
You and I were talking about this on the phone too when we were like setting this up. How you really led and leaned onto your faith during your breakup.
Yeah. I think there was one night where I felt like super down and I didn't know what to do with myself. I was so out of it. And my close friend Liz, I knew that she was going to church, and I that night I had texted her and I was like, "Hey, it was a Saturday night. I think, "Hey, are you going to church tomorrow?" And she goes, "Oh, yeah, every Sunday." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Do you mind if I join you?" And she was just like, "Yeah, I'll be there at this time. I'll see you there." And that was it. I kind of just liked her message, and um within like 15 minutes she tries calling me, and I think I got busy doing something at that moment that I didn't answer the phone call, but 15 minutes she called me and I didn't answer. I texted her. I said, "Hey, I'm busy doing this." I don't know what I was doing at the time, but I'm busy doing this. And she was like, "Okay." She goes, "Is everything okay?" And I was like, "No, I'm kind of going through a lot right now, girl." And she was just like, "Okay." I knew something was up. She goes, "Just the way that you texted me, I know something's up." And I was like, "Tomorrow I'll explain to you, but I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for, allowing me to come with you and join you." She goes, "Yeah, of course." And that day that I went, the message that day, I was like, oh, it's like he's speaking to me for sure. It was beautiful. I think at the very end, we did our prayer and I was crying, and she kind of passed me a tissue, and we walked out and she goes, "Let's go grab coffee and let's sit down and talk." And I said, "Okay." And we went and grabbed coffee. We sat down and I just talked to her. I let it all out. I really trust her. She's been in my life for a few years now, and I let it all out. And she cried and she was feeling all the emotions with me. And um, towards the end of it, she kind of got up and she's like, "Let me do a prayer for you. I want to pray for you real quick." And I said, "Okay." And I hug her and she's praying as I'm hugging her, and she kind of like stops. And I was kind of like, "Why'd you stop?"
You're like, this is nice.
I know. I'm like, "Oh," like mid prayer. I'm like, "Oh." And then she continues. And as she continues, she's crying. She's crying and she's praying. And in that moment, I was like, okay, this is exactly what I need right now. I need to keep surrounding myself around people like her, and I need to get back into my faith. Because I grew up a Jehovah's Witness, and obviously there's a lot of differences with, Christianity and that. And as I moved around, I think I moved at 12 years old, I moved to a new town, and me and my family, life just kind of hit us. Like me and the boys were going to school, and my parents got, new jobs in this new town, and life hit, and we knew like about our faith, and we prayed and we talked about God, and we always told ourselves, okay, if we're not gonna go to church, we're still gonna talk about him, we're still gonna pray, we're still gonna get together and thank him for everything that he does for us, for sure. So for so many years, I knew where my faith was. I just, I wouldn't go to church. Up until that moment, I felt like I was so lost and low. I didn't know what to do. That the only outlet was like, I need to get closer to him again. I need to speak to him. I need to continue to pray to him and ask for guidance and ask for protection, during these hard times. So that happened. And then I think 5 weeks later, um, I woke up that Sunday morning and I was not feeling good. Again, not feeling good. And I texted her, I'm like, hey girl, I'm not feeling good this morning. Like I feel really sick. Like I was lightheaded and she was like, okay, it's okay. Like, get rest, feel better. And I said, okay. And the conversation kind of ended and I was like, no, that's exactly what he wants. He wants for me to not go. I need to get up. I need to go. And I called her and I said, no, I'm going to get ready. I'm going to go. She goes, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I'll be fine. I'll just drink some tea and I'll be fine. And she goes, okay. And I told her, I was like, you know what? I feel really weird. Like, I don't want to go to church today. Kind of gave her my reasoning. And she was just like, you know what? This is exactly what the devil wants. He wants for you to not go. And you need to go. You need to go and you do it for yourself. And I said, oh, yeah, I know. I'm going to go. And she goes, okay. Um, and I kind of was just sharing with her, like, again, how I was feeling and stuff. And she was like, you know what? She goes, remember a few months ago, I had sent you this post. And I honestly, I don't even think it was a few months ago. I think it was like over a year ago. And I remember she sent me this, post on Instagram because she likes to share posts with me all the time. And but this one post stood out to me, and it was a picture of a little girl, and she had a little flower in her hand, and God's leaning towards her, and it has his hand out, and it says, she's saying to him like, "But I love it so much," and God's looking at her and saying, "Well, just give it to me. Trust me. I have better for you." And she goes, remember that? And I said, yeah, I remember that. And she goes, and behind him was like this big bouquet of flowers. I was like, you know what, Liz, that's so crazy because yesterday I literally posted a picture of a flower and it said my plan. And it was like dozens of
It
roses.
was God's plan.
God's plan. A day before she was telling me this, right? And so she said that and she goes, yeah. And she goes, he has so much better for you. You have to just trust him. You have to give him this one thing that you're holding on to and trust that he has better. And I was like, yeah, you're right. We continue to get ready. And an hour later, we walk into church. And, my church, they gave out pamphlets and, scriptures and fill in the blanks, kind of keep you engaged. And I was sitting there and we had just finished our prayer and I was listening to the pastor talk. And I had my pamphlet closed and my Bible in my lap. And she opened up hers and mind you, these pamphlets is just fill in the blanks, scriptures. In case you don't have a Bible on you, it tells you the scriptures right there. And never pictures, none of that. And she opens her pamphlet up, and I can kind of see in the corner of my eye, and she goes, "Liza." And I look over at the pamphlet. I'm like, "What?" And she goes, "Look." And at the bottom of that pamphlet was that picture that she was showing me that morning. Chills.
Yeah.
Immediately, I was like, no way. In that moment, I was like, that was my sign that he was with me and he was listening. And she looks at me and she goes, if this is not a sign, I don't know what is. And I cried. And I was like, oh my God, like he's with me and he's listening and he knows that I'm going through a lot. But this was him telling me like, hey, I'm here and I'm going to give you better. I'm going to help you. And that message that day too was beautiful. And I walked out of there. I was like, oh my goodness, like that I was meant to be here, like so weird that she goes, Liza, you literally called me this morning. You said you weren't feeling good. You didn't want to come. And I was like, and imagine if I didn't come. And then what a coincidence that she told me that morning, like we were just talking about the picture. And this picture was a little bit different because it was a little teddy bear that she's holding. And she's like, but I love it so much, and then he has this big teddy bear behind him. But it's the same thing. I have my plan and he has his, and I need to give him my plan and just know that he has so much better for me. I just gotta be patient.
You're equipped. And then you have, honestly, the greatest tool, which is your faith. There's nothing better than that. honestly. And everything that comes with that is just fruit. It's just part of his light.
That's why I was just filled with so much emotion. I was like, this is, this is what I needed. And I knew right there and then, I'm like, I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right things. And he's just showing me, like, keep doing this. Keep following me. Keep asking me for guidance. Keep asking for protection. I'm going to give you everything that you ask for. And it's so weird, too, that I was like telling my mom a few months back. I think it's when you dropped the podcast to Larissa. I had told her, I was like, I would love to actually be on a podcast. Like, I would love to sit down with Daniel and talk to him about it. It was January 1st that you messaged me. And
that's crazy.
Isn't that so crazy? I think it was January 1st. You messaged me and I was like, when I opened the message, I read it and I was like, oh, wow. And I ran to my mom and I was like, Mom, look, like I was just telling you about this. And she was like, see, Mija, like God works in mysterious ways. Like he is telling, putting Daniel in your path for a reason. And then even when I told you, I was like, I was just telling my mom about this. And you're like, God's timing. Exactly.
That's all I said. That's the first thing I thought of right now. I was like, well,
I think your only response was God's timing.
Yeah. I was talking about how earlier that men need to be 110% accountable for everything. So that accountability that you see in a man, what does that look like so that you are almost safe in every single avenue?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, just like laying everything flat out in the beginning, just being honest. Like, how will you ever feel safe with somebody if they don't tell you the truth from the get? And so if you're able to do that in the very beginning, then I know, okay, they're being honest. That takes a lot, especially in our day and age now. I feel like no one likes to take accountability anymore. No one likes to just be like, hey, you know what? I did this in my past and I'm not proud of it. And I did this A, B, and C to, fix myself from that situation. This is how I'm handling it now. I'm going to be honest with you. This is what I did. I don't plan on doing that ever again because I learned from that. I think that's the best way to make somebody feel safe. Is just, hey, I did this, and I want you to be able to trust me. So I'm telling you this for a reason. It might, catch you off guard. If you don't want to continue this with me, that's completely up to you. But I'd rather live with myself knowing that I'm honest with you. I think that's the best way to make somebody feel safe, for sure. Yeah. And I'll know it. I'll feel it. I'll know when it's right. And that's just something that I know now that I would want in my next relationship, is just complete honesty. Because I feel like I'm very honest with everybody that I associate myself with. Like I tell them, like we were talking about earlier, talking about what I've dealt with in the past, because I don't want you being in the relationship and then you finding out later, like, oh, she dealt with this. Like, why didn't I know about that? That makes sense why she's like this, It's honestly the best thing. Just be honest. Like, hey, I dealt with this. This is what I did to, overcome it. I made my mistakes too, but, I bettered myself, and that's just like the best way to handle it, to be honest.
I also wanted to talk about you growing up so fast. I can relate to this with you heavily. Mm. Do you see that wishing you didn't?
Yes and no. I feel like everything that I've experienced in life, and because I grew up so fast, made me who I am today, and like I'm really grateful for that. Do I wish that I spent more time just being little and enjoying, being 12, 13? Yeah, I really do. But I think that everything happens for a reason. Like I was meant to grow up fast. I was meant to experience things that I experienced, because then I wouldn't be who I am today. And I love who I am today.
And that's the beauty of it, where you could either see it as a weight on your shoulder and on your back, or you can recognize like, yeah, it is a weight on my shoulder and my back, but I enjoy carrying it.
Yeah.
There's a very big difference in that, where yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, when you are an adult and when there are responsibilities, there's crazy weight, but having the enjoyment of carrying that weight is beautiful. It's a different shift, rather than, like you said, you could have answered that question like, I wish I didn't have to grow up at a young age, but you did, and you don't regret it. So there's beauty in that, where you almost accept all the responsibility that comes with it. Sometimes though, I'm speaking from a man's perspective, a woman shouldn't have to carry that weight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, again, going back to old school, if you have a family, if you have a wife, etc., she shouldn't really carry much, except from just being a mother and being a wife. Other than that, there shouldn't really be any heavy weight on her shoulders. And I feel like you have been so strong for literally your entire life. And that's why you had to grow up at such a young age. But there's also this weird balance of like, you know what? I enjoy being strong, but I also need to enjoy and learning how to rest.
Yeah. 'Cause sometimes I'm like, I, with people too, I feel like I have like this guard up, and it kind of takes a little bit for them to kind of like break that wall down, you know? Um, because I had to be so strong all my life. So like just finding that balance of like slowing down and letting things happen, you know, letting people in, it takes a lot. It really does, because I just, you know, I spent my life just like having that guard, like, no, I don't want nobody to hurt me. I don't want nobody to talk to me, because like I don't want to go through that again. But um, yeah, it just really has to like be up to you to like let it down and just let things be. But I do wish that like back then when I was going through things, I just like slowed down and not be so strong. Let myself be vulnerable.
How are you trying to almost relearn that
I feel like I don't really know what it's like to just be like not necessarily at peace.
still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just always something.
You know, I love asking somebody this. I did something the other day. Have you ever gone through a day,
Hmm.
no music, no podcast, nobody in your ear, just you?
I don't think I've ever done that. When I was in school, when I was in college, I feel like even doing homework, I thought it was like therapeutic. Is that weird? Like sitting down at like my table and having my computer on, and I had a candle going, and you know all the lights are off,
Yeah.
and I'm just sitting on the computer, and that was like therapeutic to me. But even then, that's not even therapeutic, because I'm working still. I'm still doing my work, and my mind's still working.
Yeah.
You know, it's still going, and that's not being still.
I wanted to bring up this poem. I'm actually mad at myself. I was very busy today.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to sit down before I get on the podcast with Alaiza and
Yeah.
read the poem. Unfortunately, I did not.
Okay.
So there's a poem out there called Footprints in the Sand. Why did that gravitate towards you so much?
So I was actually in therapy, and I was telling my therapist about like all of these signs that I was getting, and I had told her, I was like, I don't know how you like where you are and like your faith and stuff. And she goes, I have like my beliefs, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, you know, I told her about the pamphlet at church and stuff, and how you reached out to me, and I was like, I'm having all these signs that he's like here, and he's letting me know that he's, you know, he's gonna help me through this, and he's protecting me. And I got emotional with her. I usually always do, but I got emotional with her, and she was just like, okay. She goes, there's this poem. She's like that I always go to here and there, and like she goes, every time I read it, I cry. She goes, but I want you to go home and I want you to read this poem, and the next time I see you, we'll talk about it. I said okay. So she gives me the poem, and I go home and I read it, and I cried, and immediately I was like, this is literally how I feel right now. It's a beautiful poem, really beautiful.
I'm mad I didn't read it.
Should we read it?
Want to pull it up?
Yeah. This is the poem that she told me to go home and read. It says, one night a man had a dream. He dreamed he was walking along the beach with the Lord. Across the sky flashed scenes from his life. For each scene, he noticed two steps of footprints in the sand. One belonged to him and the other to the Lord. When the last scene of his life flashed before him, he looked back at the footprints in the sand. He noticed that many times along the path of his life there was only one set of footprints. He also noticed that it happened at the very lowest and saddest times in his life. This really bothered him, and he questioned the Lord about it. Lord, you said that once I decided to follow you, you'd walk with me all the way. But I have noticed that during the most troublesome times in my life, there's only one set of footprints. I don't understand why when I needed you the most, you would leave me. The Lord replied, my precious, precious child, I love you and I would never leave you. During your times of trials and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. Yeah. And I knew, like, reading that, I was like, okay, you know, when I was going through all these hard times and I felt like I was alone, he was there the entire time, and he was carrying me through all of those obstacles. So that really hit. And she was like, I just felt like it went with you perfectly. Like what you're telling me, like, you need to read this. And she goes, and whenever you feel down or whenever you feel like, you don't understand why he's, putting you through this, like, go back, read it, and remind yourself he's there and he's carrying you through everything. But I feel like all of this is just like my purpose. I think like this year I've called 2026, this is about my purpose. I started to realize like what my purpose is. And maybe my purpose was to like love, show unconditional love to people who never experienced it, uplift them, be there for them. And sometimes that leaves me, left with nothing. Maybe I was taught lessons, but I know that I have a purpose. I feel like recently I've like sat with myself a lot and like thought about that. Because at first I was like, dang, I keep getting used. I kept using the word used. And I had to like really think about it. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because I gave unconditional love to people and they took it, you know? They left me with nothing in the end, but it's okay. Like they can keep that love that I gave them because I'm full of it and I'll continue to make more.
That is leadership. Like
Mm-hmm.
our mentor passed down a book to us. It's like literally right here. I read it in 2025. Where is it? Yeah. High Road Leadership by John C. Maxwell. Phenomenal book. John C. Maxwell is probably like the best when it comes to leadership books. And there's a few sentences, and one sentence in particular like really stands out is treat people better than you'll ever be treated. And give, same thing. Always give no matter what. Even if people betray you, backstab you, talk bad about you, led with love. You gave with love.
Mm-hmm.
So what is there to be, I regret giving to that person? I regret assisting this person because of what they did. It's like, no, like they talked bad about me. Man, that sucks. I thought they had a beautiful heart, but God bless them. I'll be praying for them.
Exactly.
What would you tell somebody, especially who's maybe that young little girl who's kind of like scratching and clawing and wanting to know what her purpose is?
Be patient. At the end of the day, everybody is hurting and bruising in their own ways, dealing with their own thing. Just stay true to yourself. And eventually you'll finally realize what your purpose is.
Do you also assist people in that light?
It's crazy you say that because yesterday I had somebody come to me and they were telling me about what they were kind of going through. And very similar to like what I went through recently. And they were just like, yeah, like, this is what happened. I'm feeling really low. And I sat there and I'm like, you're going to be okay. And she was like, yeah, I know. But I was like, nope, you're going to be okay. Because I was her age, when I was dealing with all that. She's younger. And I kind of just told her, what to do and what not to do. And I was like, I wish back then somebody would have sat in my face and said, hey, Alaiza, walk away.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Don't give it the energy that they want. Just walk away, move with grace. And eventually, like, you're going to get past this and you're going to look back and you'll be like, wow, I can't believe I spent that much time. But good thing I stopped right there when I realized it. And so I told her that. I was like, stop it now that you have the opportunity to stop what you're going through. Walk away. It's going to hurt. Cry. You're going to feel all the emotions. That's normal. Feel it. But just walk away from it. You be the one to walk away. You be the one to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this. And I've always loved the quote of like, if you think the grass is green on the other side, go touch it. And I told her that. I was like, you tell that person you think the grass is green on the other side. All right, go touch it. And when you realize it's not greener, don't come back. Because if you have that opportunity to walk away from something good and in your heart it's good, but you're having so much lust and you want to just go and like touch it, go ahead. Don't come back. And she was like, yeah, you're right. And that made me feel really good. I was like, all right. Again, that's my purpose. My purpose is to uplift people, to remind them like, hey, you're worthy. You're so worthy. And she just told me, she's like, you know what? Thank you. You made me feel better, to know that people have, are experiencing the things that I'm experiencing. And I've had other friends, like I see on social media, people post that, I don't know what it is in the air right now, but like people are going through it. Like, I don't know if it's because the weather, it's kind of like that depressing time, especially when it's gloomy. But every time I see somebody going through something, like I'm going through something, but I want people to know, like, hey, there's people out there who are going through the same thing. And, the best thing you can do is just keep surrounding yourself with people who want to uplift you and be there for you and love you. Like, you're worthy of that. And I've reached out to multiple friends that are going through kind of the same thing that I'm going through. And it makes me feel so good because I know that when I was down and I had my loved ones tell me, like, hey, we're going to sit here, we're going to let you vent and keep repeating the same story over and over and over again until you get tired of repeating the same story. We're never going to get tired of it. You can cry, you can talk about it over and over. And that's exactly what you want to hear. You don't want to hear somebody say, oh, get over it. You'll be fine. You don't cry anymore. Why are you still talking about it? No, you're supposed to talk about it. And that's why I told her, I was like, you're going to be okay, but feel it. Talk about it. Keep repeating it over and over and over again. And the more you repeat it, the more, you kind of connect the little dots. And you start to realize, like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then you feel more at peace. Not everybody has, like, I kind of like see the way my family is and like how my family is just so supportive, and I had this village behind me, and I understand that not everybody has that. That's why I like to, put my foot out and my hand out and be like, okay, like, I'll help you. This is what you can do. Like, I'll show you the love that you're not being shown. And again, that's about purpose. Sometimes you're going to do all of those things and you're not going to get anything in return, but you know that you did a good deed. But my brothers, I feel like they've been the best example for me. And Joe's really misunderstood. Me and him are a lot closer. I feel like we just get things, right? Like, I don't know, that's weird because he's the oldest, I'm the youngest, like, and then Jonathan's the middle child. Love you, Jonathan, but he's a middle child. But I look at Jonathan, I see the way he is, like he's a man to me.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I get emotional. Yeah, me and him have like bumped heads as we've like grown up. I'm not even saying like here and there. No, all the time. We bump heads so much. It's so weird. Maybe because he's the middle child. I don't know. But we bumped heads so much. But honestly, like, he's the one that looks after me the most. Like, he's always tried to protect me. I remember I was like a freshman in high school and he was a senior. And oh my God, I couldn't do nothing around him. He was like always like a hawk, just always watching me. He always wanted to protect me. And he'd always tell me, like, gosh, Liza, I just wish there was somebody out there like me. But it's true because Jonathan's like, he's such a lover boy to me. Like, he's so soft. When it comes to like love, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to like the time to kind of like put his guard down and, just love somebody, like he's amazing. And I think that's why that's what he says, like, I want you to find somebody like me. And I think that's why it's always been hard for him to like not like guys for me. Literally never liked guys for me. None. I'd be like, oh, this guy's cute. No. How about this guy? And I would like show him pictures. I'm like, hey, how about this guy? No. Oh, the way he's standing. No. Oh, what he's wearing. Nope. And maybe, and you know what? And I would always see it like, dang, Jonathan, you don't want nobody for me. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, okay, it makes sense now because guys know guys.
Oh.
And if Jonathan doesn't like this guy for me, all right, there's a reason why.
Yeah.
Because he can see it. He knows how guys are. Whether it's just a picture or seeing them out in public, like he knows.
Yeah.
And so he tries to protect me, like, no, and past situationships or past relationships that didn't work out, he'd be like, hey, I don't want to sit here and tell you I told you so, but Alaiza, remember when I told you I know this guy, this is what he's like. And he's like, and what happened? I was like, yeah, he was just like that. Yeah. Exactly. I don't take it to heart. I don't, I know that they're not doing it in a malicious way. They're just looking after me. I feel like there's another thing that I wanted to tell you because I had another sign. I was going to go get my nails done and I needed to go out of town. And I told my best friend, I was like, girl, I cannot go alone. For some reason that day I was just feeling really weird. And, antsy, and I was like, I don't want to go alone. You want to come with me? And she was like, yeah, I got you. And the whole way there and the whole way back, just deep conversations, talking to my best friend, of course. And we're getting onto the freeway, going like almost home. And I was singing away, and again, I was feeling really weird, but I put a song on. I'm just feeling a little better, kind of more at ease, and I'm singing away. And I remember I seen this sign from my college that I graduated from. I seen a sign, and in my head, I'm like reading it. I'm like, it says the warrior way. And again, I'm reading it in my head, and my best friend's like, the warrior way. And so we're both looking at this sign, and I'm like, I paused. Mind you, I'm driving. I paused, and I looked at it, and I was like, and she slowly turns to me, Liza, that was you. And I just start screaming. I just start screaming, laughing, but like I started crying because I was like, what? And she was like, no, like exit. Like I even kind of like swerved into the slow lane, and she was like, exit, watch, exit. And I was like, oh my God. She goes, we need to go back around. We need to see it. Like that was you. And I was like, you know what? I kind of thought, like, I paused and I was like, that kind of looks like me. Weird. But again, I was like, no, there's no way. There's no way that is me on a billboard. And she was like, no, we're going to go back around. So we are like making our way like back to the freeway again. We go back around and she starts recording it. And it's such a cute little video. But she starts recording me. She goes, no, Liza, that's you. That's you. And so I pull over and I'm like screaming again. I'm like, what? Like, that is just so crazy. And again, like, I have like my ups and downs where I'm like feeling like, why am I feeling like this? Like, poor me. I feel for some reason, I always feel bad for myself. And I'm trying to like learn to not be like that. Like everything happens for a reason. Stop feeling bad for yourself. And we got off the car and we took pictures with it and took videos because we just couldn't believe our eyes. Like it was literally a sign that said, fueling the future, the warrior way. And it's me with my diploma in the air. And I'm like, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I get back in the car and she's like, I was like, oh my God, I feel emotional. She goes, honestly, I didn't think I thought you were going to cry and you didn't. And I was like, I don't even know like how to feel right now. And she goes, Liza, just like feel accomplished. Like that's big. That's big. And I think that right there and then, again, another sign. God was telling me like, look, you've accomplished this much. There's so many beautiful things to like look at and appreciate. Why are you dwelling on the little things? Appreciate the big things. I graduated. I got my bachelor's degree. And then I searched it up. I didn't know at the time. But out of over 4,000 people that graduated class 2025, I was on a billboard on the side of the freeway. Like, why? Why me? Out of all those students, why did you guys pick me to be on that billboard? And again, God works in mysterious ways. And that was him showing me, again, appreciate it. Appreciate the big things that you have accomplished. Like, yeah, you're going through it and you might feel really down. You might feel really low. But again, you've seen it all. You've accomplished so much. Appreciate those things. So I wanted to share that with you because I was like, that was beautiful.
Alaiza, my last question for you, okay?
Okay.
So if you had little Alaiza next to you right now, and obviously she was in such strain, she was confused, and dealt with a lot of heartache. With everything that you know now, what would you tell her?
Look what we did. Look what we have accomplished already. There's so much more that I'm going to accomplish. So, like, we did it.
From what I've seen afar, just from knowing you in general, I'm just proud of you. But Alaiza, I truly appreciate your time. Again, I wanted to come to you, but you coming to me, I truly appreciate you. Thank you all for tuning in to today's episode. If you got a lot of value out of this, please do me a favor and support our channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. Make sure to hit that follow button on Spotify to stay updated with our latest episodes. And if you are listening on Apple Podcast, I would greatly appreciate it if you would leave a 5-star rating, followed by with a review. Again, thank you all for the support. Stay loving, stay hungry, and stay excellent.